Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. So today we're going to be doing, I know, a top 5 solos video. Obviously, this is going to be my opinion, but not only that, I'm going to be looking at it from a pseudo-competitive setting. I'm going to be having builds included. I will do an honorable mention just kind of as like a name off. I won't like go in depth into it just because I don't want to pad this video out needlessly, but we'll just get started. So number 5, we have Thor, obviously with Aspect. This is the build. I didn't do a leveling order just because I'll talk that through right now. But big picture, you're just going to level your 3 most of the time. You can max your 1 first if you want. And the build start is going to be Bluestone, Tier 1 Axe, and 3 health potions. And you should be all set. Why is Thor actually good? That's the important part. Why is he number 5? So generally speaking, right now in this game, laning phase is a big deal, right? And Thor is actually a little bit weak in the laning phase comparatively to some of the other picks I'll be showcasing. And that is sort of a problem, but you make up for it in the amount of CC you force. You have obviously a ton of setup, a ton of flexibility with ulting, with your walls, pretty good lane damage. So your matchups are not impossible, they're just typically kind of hard. This solo, in my opinion, is going to be the hardest god on this list by far. So if you don't actually want to play him as much as the other picks, totally understand and honestly maybe avoid altogether, but his upside is tremendously high still. Your damage is great. Again, your lockdown being so good and having so much range means you have a lot of different playstyle approaches you can do, right? So if I want to look to play like diving the backline, I have a very easy way to do that. If I want to set up on frontliners for my backline to kill them, I have a very easy way to do that. You typically, and if you've seen my videos, you can probably gauge this from a lot of my Thor games is if my matchup feels a little bit bad, I'll be proxying a lot. This character is very good at proxy, clear potential, which is just, clearing behind the towers and stuff after 5 minutes, of course. And we use that clear advantage and that kind of tempo advantage to really run around the map. Again, this is a super rotational heavy character, especially in ranked. You can see that being very viable because you are obviously trying to get involved into fights, and if you get involved into fights without comms, you're able to potentially pick up a lot more than you normally would. So the value is just there across the board because he's so flexible and he has so many use cases. There's really never a bad Thor game. His matchups are generally, like I said, hard in terms of the frontliners, but he does well into backline solos across the board. And that value and that flexibility is a big deal. Now, obviously, again, like I said, you're going to have some hard matchups. So if you fight super hard and you're into a Bellona, say, you're going to get behind and it's going to be a really tough time. So you have to be okay with kind of sacking waves time to time, proxying and giving up neutral camps time to time, stuff like that, which can sort of put you in a big hole. So the big thing I try to talk about and the difficulty with this character is, matching that idea of proxying and farming and actually getting good tempo on the map with your own farm, right? So you need to make sure that if I'm rotating a ton, I'm not getting down 5 levels because it's not going well. But the point is you're probably going to have more 5-on-4s, more 4-on-3s in the mid fights, in the duo fights even, and you use that number advantage to your advantage, really, right? And hopefully you win the game. So definitely a little bit different of like kind of the playstyle I tend to preach, but this is my most played god in this game and in Smite 1. I do love him. I do still think he's very good. Just a little bit more maybe complexity, but also more availability in terms of how you actually want to play him. So definitely do recommend him. That's fifth. So number 4, and it's weird because I've been doing like some of these edited videos now, so to do one like this, it's a bit awkward for me. But number 4 is going to be Baron. So with Baron here, obviously we're going to be going the aspect. The big thing for Baron is it's kind of a twofold thing for this character. I want to clarify really quick. This god's best role is support. He is probably the best support in the game right now. So you'll see him be banned. It's usually for support, and the play time on this character in solo is usually lower because of how OP it is in support. That being said, especially I think in lower ranks, I don't know how much Baron has really caught on. He's like kind of top tier jail, always banned, but if he's not banned, really good solo option as well. Not quite as good as in support, obviously, but still very strong. This is the build right here. Again, these builds, like, I want to be clear with builds because sometimes people get a bit confused or maybe I don't explain it very well. I don't have like a super strong opinion on builds aside from concepts. And what I mean by that is like here we have cooldown defense for physical and magical, and we've got some utility. That basically makes a good build, right? If you want to go instead of Glad Shield here, a Regrowth, or if you want to go instead of a Genji's here, a Sphere of Negation, I don't care. I think that's fine, right? The point is that conceptually you have what you want in a build down and in your build, and if you have a good reason to do it, do it. What I really don't think as a player you should do across the board in any skill bracket is make your own build just because. Using my builds, a different content creators' builds like Intersect, Weaken, Inbound, whoever it may be, fine, okay as well, and so on and so forth, as well as like websites like SmiteBrain or Smite2 Tracker for builds, I think is always the thing you should do as a default because look, the game can be really punishing and hard, and if you have something stable that you know is correct, you just make your game state easier, right? Like there's so many things as a player we can do to make our game easier, and building correctly is absolutely one of them. So no matter what, you're playing good, playing trash, doesn't matter. You always have something stable. So like please keep that in mind. But anyways, this is the base normal build that I typically do. I'll go Pendulum, Lifebinder, Prophetic Cloak, Glad Shield, Genji's Spirit Robe, and then our last item, I put Helm here. This is extremely kind of like spur of the moment. I've gone Magi's here, I've gone Mantle here, I've gone Helm, I've gone Helm of Darkness at times. I think I've gone like a damage item here. Super, super flexible last item, so keep that in mind. But the idea with Baron, right, is that this character has a couple of very easy benefits. Your build, by the way, level 1 is you're going to go Sands of Time, Chalice, and Baron's Brew. This is very important. You have to brew the blue buff so you don't miss a creep on the wave. Very, very big deal. Anyways, um, the big advantage of this character and why this god is so valuable is really a couple of things. One of them is that he's doing magical damage. That's not something you're going to see in the rest of this tier list. So when you have a character that actually that's not true, you will. I lied. But generally, magical solos are not great. There are exceptions, but they're generally not that good right now. But magical damage in a draft is really good. It opens up your draft for things like hunter mids. It opens up, obviously, backline damage. Tanks, don't really want to build as much magic defense typically because it kind of makes their build feel a bit weird, especially in solo lane. So being able to force early magic D is a big deal. And a lot of people won't even go pure magic D items first. They'll go stuff like prophetic, and you absolutely eat them. But the big picture with this character is he is amazing engage, amazing counter engage. Again, he's very flexible. His laning phase is typically extremely good, especially with Lifebinder. And the whole Baron laning phase is really just if I hit my root, you're in big trouble, and if I miss it, I'm in big trouble. So there is like a level of uh, execution you need, obviously, to be successful with this pick. But assuming you hit your root, your matchups are almost certainly good. And if you miss your root, your matchups are almost certainly bad. And while that is like a lot of pressure, I would say, the directive and the initiative is on you, not on the other person. And I think having that type of control almost in all matchups is a very nice way to have a character rather than like, I have to pick X character and I'm worried that if they play, Mordred or they play Osiris or whatever, I'm in big trouble. That's not really the case in this god. It's if I pick Baron and I hit my roots, I'm good. That's it. And if I miss, I'm bad. That's it. And that's applied to basically every lane. So that gives him a lot of safety, assuming you're hitting your stuff. I think the big value point, though, of this character, aside from the magical damage, aside from the very stable laning phase, is when we look at transitioning to team fights, again, you just do so much damage with such a tanky build here that you kind of just outvalue most characters. Again, there's kind of this notion, and I don't think it's really a correct one, but there's a notion that like some solo laners fall off because they don't have the peaks of like backliners a lot of the time in terms of like your mage's full build and your ADC's full build. If you want to make that argument, and I don't think it's a good one, Baron falls off zero. Like if you're gonna say gods fall off, like tanks fall off, Baron kind of ignores those rules because his scaling with this aspect is so strong. And I know it's like a damage-centered scaling, so you might say, why don't you have more power in the build? The truth is you don't need more power. This is enough. You feel incredibly tanky with this build. You feel incredibly powerful. Baron's Brew on Baron feels amazing as well. And Yeah, you just have a really good transition. I think the power spike on this build and this character is just like stably better than most gods across the board. So in that, he's a great backline character. He can kind of peel his teammates out. Really, all you're doing is just running around hitting abilities. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. Obviously you can play it better or worse depending, but where Thor, there's like a lot of setup strategy, and I really emphasize this idea of setup with the walls. Baron, less so. It's more about just like spamming abilities, consistently harassing, getting poke. Very like Karen-esque in Smite 1 if you loved that character. And yeah, that's really it. I mean, really good gods. That's number 4 for me. Number 3, I think the top 3 is kind of a really big bubble. We'll do our honorable mention, obviously, before number 1, as just like a quick aside. But number 3 is going to be Bellona. Bellona, I think. So if I try to rank like the top 5 solos from a tier list system, now again, I want to be very clear. Like all 5 of these characters, I think, are very good, right? But if I were to rank them comparatively, just in a bubble of those 5, no other gods, I would say like Baron, Thor in the 4-5 are like good and like strong. And there's a couple other characters I could like throw in the mix that I'll mention in honorable mentions as being like potentially contenders for that 4-5 spot or just below. Uh, but once we get to Bellona, we're taking like a definitive step up. Like I think Thor and Baron are kind of interchangeable. When we get to Bellona, we're taking an instant step up. And when we get past Bellona, we're also taking like 2 steps up. So you're really what solo is it's top 2 solos, Bellona, and then everything else. Okay, so keep that in mind. I still do think Baron are best 4-5, but like again, keep that in mind. That is very important. This is a build that I've been doing recently that I've liked. We're going Axe, the Reaper, Berserkers, Glad Shield, Sanguine Lash, Pridwin into Magi's. If you've seen my channel, I upload a lot of Bellona. Also, remember, no aspect. Please remember that. If you have seen my channel, you've probably seen that I've been doing a lot of Bellona games in the last couple of months. If you want to go Devos on this character, you can. If you want to go Prophetic Cloak early in this build, you can. If you want to go some iteration of like Axe, Devos, Berserkers, Prophetic, Glad Shield, Pridwin, Spirit Robe, something like that, totally okay. Again, I just talked about with the Baron thing, concept heavy stuff. You're getting kind of all your bases sorted with those builds, so they're good to me. This is just a version that kind of highlights some of the newer item changes. So if you want something new, something fresh that you think is still exciting and like consistent thematically with those builds, this works. Now, again, if you saw, one of my videos from a couple weeks ago on Bellona, that the build looked a bit different because Reaper was different and Devos was a little bit different and Lash was a bit different, and you want to do that build, do it. Like, it's completely fine. This is just like something to highlight something new, I guess. Again. So, anyways, so why Bellona number 3? Big picture, she wins lanes. That's really the big thing with her. Her tempo is incredible as a character. You get a lot of advantages in almost every lane aside from one, which we will, well, really 2, and it's the 2 above her, shocker. But you'll get very ahead almost all the time on this character. And yeah, obviously, I mean, I was thinking like, let me not spoil it, but I should be fair. If you're playing Bellona, ban Yorm. You ban Yorm, you'll be happy, okay? We get that out of the way. If you don't ban Yorm, you're going to be very upset. You're going to feel lied to because you're going to lose your lane and it's going to suck. But yeah, this character is very good. Wins every lane on paper and should, aside from that one. So if you avoid the Yorm lane, which you can just do by banning it, you should be all set. Obviously, max your bludgeon on this character. Where this god gets so much value is in the early game and even the mid game. You take your trades and then you Scourge heal consistently to the sides. Axe is giving you a lot of early fight potential as well, which you already have, so you kind of double down on that. You have such solid engage in team fights. The shield bash having reflect damage is a huge deal. I think this character, very similar to Baron, has this kind of curve where she's incredibly strong early and she never really falls off. Pair that with having, I would say, more autonomy as a character than Baron does, because Baron can't like engage on backliners by himself and kill them as consistently, as easily, whatever you want to say. So there is, I think, more 1v9 carry potential on this character. But the lead building you can do, the flexibility and strength relatively into frontliners, backliners, really just good. You're going to see pressure be a big contention point of top characters in general in Smite, especially right now in solo. It's more important than it's ever been in Smite 2. So Bellona naturally, I think, is just going to be very good. And yeah, really remember your laning phases, you always kind of Scourge Heal on the back end of trades, and your engage with Bludgeon does so much damage on this character. Just really good. I think this one's fairly known. So yeah, that's Bellona. Number 2, we're gonna go to Osiris. I know, right? It's crazy. I'm putting Osiris number 2. So I want to give a quick disclaimer. I'm talking about aspect specifically, obviously. We'll go to build. And it's literally the Baron build with a tiny variation. So Axe, Lifebinder, Prophetic Cloak, Glad Shield, Pridwin, Spiro, Magi's. I think I had Genji's in the Baron build. Again, just like I said with the Baron build, you can change it up a tiny bit. Keep the core concept, shared prots, cooldown, Lifebinder, you're happy, okay? But why OC aspect number 2? So here's the thing with base OC really quick. It's good. Like, I want to be clear, it's actually good. Base Osiris on this list would probably be number 5, maybe a little bit lower. Because I think Chalk is like solid. Spoiler alert, that's probably my honorable mention. But anyways, uh yeah, he's good. Base aspect is fine. The problem is this aspect is so much better than the base character, excuse me, that it doesn't matter. Like, you are objectively making a mistake going base Osiris when this aspect exists, and there's no debate about that. So, we're talking about aspect as number 2. It sucks. I hate it. I wish the base character was more on par, and we do see this aspect continuously receiving nerfs, but the nerfs are not at a high enough cliff that they matter, okay? So that's the big thing. You max your 1 on this character. If you don't know how aspect works, this might not be the best video for you. I would probably just like watch one of my aspect videos, but really quick TLDR, your 1 has like an Omi system similar to Yamoja. Anytime you have 4 fragment stacks, you can cast your 1, and your ultimate immediately resets your fragment capacity to 8 again. And when you hit an ability, you gain a fragment, and you also passively gain fragments. So the idea is you spam your 1s with this character, use your ult, use your tether, whatever it is, regen fragments, and then spam your 1 more. It's very goofy looking. It's incredibly overpowered. Again, the top 2 are like markedly better than everything else. Big picture with this pick and why he's not number 1, because I realize everything I'm saying gives him the number 1 capacity, and by the way, I know I talked a lot about situations and kind of value as a character. The value as a character is you spam your 1. You have protection skilling on your abilities, you're full tank, you do 1,000,000,000 damage, you don't die. The way you play it is you just hit who you can, and you try to ult backliners, and you try to one them as well. That's kind of it. There's not like a lot of rhyme or reason to this. I mean, there is. It's doing what I just said, but the fight like pattern is not super inertly complicated. You just kind of spam abilities, right, and hit them. I mean, I know that's kind of like a forehead way to put it, but that really is just what it is. The reason why this pick's not number 1 is it's kind of twofold, but number 1, the number 1 pick, which is going to be Yorm, has better early game. But really with Osiris, that's kind of the thing to highlight, is this character, due to some of the nerfs he's gotten, is still absolutely insanely strong. However, his laning phase can be a tiny bit spotty, especially pre-5. But even post-5, if you have a kind of bad ultimate, you don't use it correctly, you don't really factor in your sickles super well. The sickle's not the easiest ability to hit, so if you're consistently bricking them, any of these kinds of factors, your value as a character significantly drops, okay? So I recommend shotgunning the sickles if you feel like it's a low probability shot. Very similar to like a Thanatos solo. If you're missing your sights on Thanatos solo, you're cooked. Not quite that like punishing on this character, but it's the same idea. You need to hit your sickles to get value, and because there's a conditional that actually has a high probability of failing if you're not very experienced with the character or you're just taking ill-advised moments to use your abilities, there is a lot of potential like bullied out and losing trades potential. I realize like it might be kind of unfair because I didn't put this much of a caveat on Baron, but I did talk about how like you miss the root, you're kind of screwed. Sort of similar, but you have more opportunities, and each individual sickle is not as important, but it is still a big deal. If you hit your sickles consistently, you are completely frying if you're not, your value tanks, right? And I think that amount of failing potential brings this character down some because I do try to factor in these guys as like you are playing them well, not if you don't know what you're doing. But it's not reasonable or realistic for anybody, including me, to like always hit sickles in timely spots. And sometimes there are big games or important games or competitive games where like I miss a sickle that would have helped the laning phase a little bit more or whatever. And it sucks that I missed it, but because I missed it, the lane is worse than it should have been, right? In a specific portion of time. And that's a big deal. So I'm also saying that to say, like, if I contrast that with another pick, like if I'm playing Bellona in that spot, I'm thinking, man, well, there's nothing to miss, right? I'm not going to miss my bludgeon. So shit, that feels kind of bad. So because there's potential downsides with that and his early game is a little bit more spotty, again, once you get Lifebinder, like the game is kind of over if you're not behind. But if you're against a good player, they can do a good job getting you a little bit behind before that point, especially with the jungle rotation or just a rock secure and kind of keep you trapped a little bit. If you're unable to get great ults off because they have good spacing and they can space some of your sickles, your value is going to be a little bit shakier in the laning phase, which is a big deal. Again, I'm saying all of that to give the case for why this character is not brain dead number one. This is still top two, and by and large, this god is just a permaban. If you're not banning Osiris and Yorm in a competitive setting or in a ranked setting, I think you're just trolling, truthfully. So I'm saying all of that to like cope and say he's not by far the best solo laner. But these two top solos are in such a high stratosphere that like it really doesn't matter. I gave you the theory for how to beat the character, not a practical guidebook for how to beat the character. I really want to underscore that. So yeah. So our honorable mentions, I'm not going to show builds, but if you just look at like my YouTube videos on these characters recently, you'll get a good look because I didn't make builds. That's why I'm not showing them. But your honorable mentions, these are just characters that I think are strong, right? That are fine to play. Again, I want to be clear. I think solo lane is an open role by and large, meaning you can play a lot of picks and be valuable. So I think Mordred, for example, is an honorable mention. I think Chalk is an honorable mention. I think Odin is an honorable mention. Those three characters obviously show different things of value. So, like, if we're looking at Chalk, uh, what we're getting out of him is like stable laning phase, aspects really strong. You apply anti-heal to people, good poke, consistent damage, really easy to hit ultimate, and valuable ultimate. Kind of just like a very good stable neutralizer, can kind of play lane safe and be pretty solid. Uh, Kind of jack of all trades pick. If we look at Mordred, we're looking at more laning phase dominance, less team fight reliability, ultra late game, but high sustain, very good trading patterns, typically very strong. Although again, he can be a little bit spotty. He really sucks from behind, for example. And then if we look at like Odin, maybe less lane dominant than the two, probably closer to a Thor, but the cage is just that good. And yeah, I mean, this pick is underplayed because he's boring, but incredibly strong. Is a better jungler, probably a top 2 jungler in the game right now, but his solo value is still incredibly high. Just the laning phases can be a little bit sketchy. So that's some honorable mentions. Again, I would probably put Mulan in that tier as well. I think Mulan is very good. Mordred, Chalk, Mulan, Odin, I would put just below Thor, Baron, kind of in a pool together. I might be missing a pick, but I don't think I am. If you really wanted to put Tsukiyomi solo, you could. I wouldn't put a Wukong. I wouldn't put Guan or Hades or anything else in that spot. I would still probably not put Cab in that spot. Neath solo, which I really like, obviously, as you guys know, and like Donza, they're very fun. I wouldn't put them in that spot because consistently they're not that valuable, but they're fun. So regardless, our number one spot is going to be Yorm. So why is it Yorm? Really simple, and I'm going to like make the whole video about this at this point, okay? You don't go aspect. Some people say to go aspect. I think they're just wrong. There's like a big EU propaganda that aspect is good, and I don't know what they're on about. The idea is that aspect gives you better team fight viability, and your laning phase is going to be good anyways. I don't know. I think it's a bunch of nonsense, honestly. Aspect's fine, you can go it, but like to blindly go aspect without like considering the fact that people are like knockup immune with abilities and you're getting a bigger knockup, kind of useless, right? Aspect's fine. Definitely don't need it, so don't think you need it. Anyways, Jormungandr. So here's the thing with Jorm. Before this patch, Jorm was the best solo in the game, aside from OC. Okay, OC was the best, Jorm was number 2. Why? So this game has minion executes when minions are below 25% health. We're at 25% health. Your breath one-shots them. That's the same thing with auto attacks, but it's different using a Osiris auto or even a Bellona auto and executing a minion versus a Jorm auto. I think you can understand why. So that's a big problem. Okay, just straight up. The other thing is that this character's stats got buffed a ton. On release, this got sucked. And he rightfully did get buffed, but he got overbuffed. And he hasn't been adjusted since. I think this character is a little bit weaker in ranked on paper because he kind of does fall off as a character, but he just straight up has the best early game in the game, and it's not close. He hard beats Bellona. He hard beats literally every god, including Vulcan Aspect and stuff in the lane, and falls off less sharply than, say, a Vulcan Aspect. So, anyways, to go back to my tangent, he was a top 2 solo, okay? Like 1000%. Also, this is the build. You can go Stygian Anchor. I know someone's going to comment it. You can if you want to, sure. But he was a top 2 solo, all right? And it was very clear. Osiris got very slightly nerfed, okay? And this character actually got better. You want to know why? Agility Relic. This absolute stinking pile of shit is in the game, unfortunately, in ranked, and completely makes this character who had virtually zero counterplay have zero counterplay. It is unbelievable how overpowered this relic is, especially on Jormungandr. No character in the game benefits from Agility Relic as much as Jorm. Why? Well, if I'm an immobile tank, but I have incredibly high damage and pressure, what happens if I just get a dash every 20 seconds? Guess what? You get way better. Just that simple. This character also not having a lot of movement penalty on his breath, which already doesn't really have movement penalty when you're considering the fact that you have these slows, you have like the tap firing with your autos, and everything else just makes this pick so unbelievably overpowered. I typically would recommend to people, hey, you should play Neath solo into Yorm. It's a good matchup if you space well. Hey, I recommend playing Baron solo into Yorm. It's a good matchup if you space well. All that shit's completely gone because of Agility Relic. You want to know why? You Neath root him, he dashes out of it, you can't combo him. You Baron root him, he dashes out, you can't combo him. There's literally nothing you can do. This character has literally zero bad matchups. It's just a skill diff if you're losing lanes on this god. Especially with Agility Relic. He already wins every lane without Agility Relic, and then he now wins them even harder. I'm going to put it in reference. I scrimmed against Finocase team for Smite Prime the other day, okay? And I played against SOT, who's their solo laner, in ranked. I was playing Neath, he was playing Yorb. He went Agility Relic in ranked. I went 0-7, I think, that game. Literally could not win. It was unplayable. Then we scrimmed them. Agility Relic was banned in competitive because there was a collective agreement among players and admins and stuff, especially with it being the first week of being implemented into the game, that Agility Relic should not be in the tournament because for Smite Prime Week 4 finals, whatever you want to call it, that would be a bad look for the game. We didn't think I don't know if it was potential bug applications, but I think the big idea was that it's just not balanced. Nobody wants it. Unanimously hated amongst players. I played the exact so mind you, because we scrimmed them, we played with those rules, no Agility Relic. I played the exact same matchup in a more serious atmosphere, and I promise you, I was trying in both times. Completely won the lane. Was up like 1,800 gold. Do you want to know why? Because this relic removes counterplay. It just doesn't exist. I want to explain this to you really, really simply. If I have a cooldown that's on 140 seconds and you have a cooldown that's on 20 seconds for your relic, which one is better? Is Agility Relic as strong as Aegis a 1-to-1? No. Is Agility Relic as strong? Is 7 Agility Relics in the same time slot as strong as 1 Aegis? It's like 10 times stronger. Agility Relic on tanks is straight up broken. On Yorm, it is the best thing of all time. Ruins the game. I cannot believe this got greenlit. Whoever greenlit this shit is just making me furiously mad. This attack movement penalty needs to be shot, needs to be removed immediately. Okay. Anyways, what else about Yorm makes this god good? Really, really simple premise. You have lane pressure, you gain lane pressure, you're a hybrid scaler, you'll get the camps, the totem, you'll get the rocks, you'll get all of that stuff. So you're coming into team fights, even though you do have some fall off potential on the character, with an influx of strength in it because of the rocks. you have a ton more gold than people, so you're just super juiced up, and you can kind of just kill everybody or zone everybody or like assistant objectives very easily, and you're kind of just this like big wall. The big thing with this character is that your one gives you anti-heal, so the pools help you with viability, especially with bluestone, so your team fights are good. Again, you kind of are just going to spawn in ahead at 1500 to 2k gold, and then you rotate. You reset, go to a gold fury, the gold fury is gone. You reset, go to a pyromancer, the pyromancer is gone. You reset, go back to gold fury, the second gold fury is gone. So you just kind of create this objective loop with this character, and it's not that he's proficient at objectives beyond other characters, but it's just that you're ahead. And when you're ahead, you can just force shit because it doesn't matter, right? And I always say, like, playing with the lead is easy because you can just be a little brutish and it kind of works because you're just ahead. So focus on learning how to get ahead. This character does it for you. The really big reason why this god went from being so shit to being so overpowered is actually, it's really interesting. So there's a couple of things. Number one, Atreyan's Conch got buffed, which really helps this character as he is a hybrid scaler. But the big thing with this god is actually the passive. This is what made him so strong. So damage scaling, 8% of max health or 115% of strength. Now, previously, I think this was 6% or 100%, or it was 5% and 100%. But when this happened, right, the idea was that at the time, there were Devo's Lash builds on Jormungandr that were incredibly overpowered, okay? Incredibly OP, and those builds have very little health, okay? And the idea was that Jormungandr is a strong solo laner, but he's not being played in the angle that we want him to be played in, meaning he's being built with Devo's Lash. That's not his identity as a god. Remember, he was technically added as a support in this game, right? So the pivot was, let's increase the damage scaling to a higher percentage of max health, meaning if you build health on this character, your breath does more damage, whereas if you build like a damagey build like Devo's Lash, your auto attacks are still going to be strong, but you actually feel more incentive to build health because it only scales on one of the two, not both. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you might think, well, hey, damage scaling increasing on max health, that's just straight up like nice. So the health builds got better, right? Wrong. Because this factors in base health, even when you go a Devo's Lash build or you go whatever Devo's build you want and you don't go health, this 8% max health scaling actually ends up taking precedent because you still have more health proportionally than you do strength. And so damage Yorm just straight up got buffed is the point. Like the Lash build just straight up got buffed. You just do more damage. The buff to try to make his health builds hurt more actually made base Jormungandr without the health build better. I know that makes no sense, and it shouldn't make any sense, but that's just what happened. Uh, so yeah, because this guy has such high base health, he literally just got buffed. Like there wasn't a pivot, there wasn't a redistribution of stats. It was literally just a buff to the build you're already going. Since then, Devos has fallen off a little bit, but you just go Triton's Conscience, virtually the same thing. Again, if you want to go items like the anchor, you can. I know I just made this a huge rant, but yeah, this guy has 0 skill, the worst thing of all time. I loved Jormungandr Smite 1. They've massacred my boy in this game, making him this garbage. But yeah, you pick this guy, you'll win literally every lane. You get ahead. All you have to do is rotate 2 objectives. Call the objective. You do that, you're going to win the game. So anyways, that's it. Top 5 gods with the things. I'm sorry for ranting, but holy moly, this pick makes me mad. Anyways, see you guys soon. Bye-bye.